They say every great palace hides a great price, sometimes gold, sometimes blood, sometimes a curse. Northwest of Lisboa, about 40 minutes into the hills, lies the town of Mafra. It is a quiet place, narrow streets, whitewashed houses, olive groves rolling into the horizon. But above the town rises something that does not belong. A palace so vast, so impossible, it seems torn from another world. Palacio Nacional de Mafra, the National Palace of Mafra. It stretches for nearly half a kilometer. Walls of limestone and marble, a basilica crowned with twin bell towers, endless cloisters, and a royal residence fused with a monastery. The people of Mafra still say it should not exist, and yet it does. The story begins with King João V, known as the Magnanimous. In the early 1700s, he was desperate for an heir, so she made a vow. If his queen bore him a son, he would build God a monastery greater than any in Europe. She did, and he kept his word. But promises that grand come at a cost. To pay for it, João drowned the wealth of Brazil. Gold, diamonds, timber, ivory. He emptied treasuries, slaved thousands, conscripted peasants to work the quarries. Day and night, under burning sun and heavy stone, men labored until they dropped. The palace was built on devotion, yes, but also on suffering. And above it all, the king demanded bells, 98 of them, the largest carillon in the world. They were cast in the Netherlands, then hauled across oceans to Portugal, each one a leviathan of bronze, hoisted by ropes into the towers, fitted into iron cradles. Their voices would shake the heavens. When they rang in chorus, the sound rolled for miles across the countryside. Thunder made metal. But among those bells, villagers whispered that one was different. One was cursed. The first toll came at night. The story goes that a guard, walking the cloisters long after midnight, heard a sound that froze his blood. A single note, deep, heavy, rolling down from the tower like the voice of God. But no one had pulled the ropes. The bells stood still. By morning, news spread throughout the town. A villager had died suddenly in his bed. And from then on, people watched, listened, waited, because when the curse bell tolled, without human hand, it was always followed by death. Because when the curse bell tolled, without human hand, it was always followed by death. Mafra is proud of its palace. It's a symbol of Portugal's golden age, a UNESCO site, a place of pilgrimage for tourists. But in the taverns, over wine and bread, the old men still shake their heads. The palace was built too quickly, they say. Too much gold, too many bones buried under stone. And when the wind shifts just right, carrying the sound of bells across the villages, the villagers cross themselves. Because no one forgets that among the 98, there is one bell that does not ring for prayer. It rings for death. Have you ever stood beneath a tower of bells and wondered if they were listening to you? Have you ever thought that metal, cast by fire, shaped by hand, might hold memory? That it might hold more than a memory? The people of Mafra believe it does, and when the cursed bell tolls, they say it's not just announcing death, it's calling for it. Mafra's palace was a promise fulfilled, but promises that large always leave scars. King João ruled in the early 1700s when Portugal was drunk on the wealth of Brazil. Gold, diamonds, ivory, timber. It poured across the Atlantic, and the king spent it as though the oceans would never run dry. But they did not build Mafra with gold alone. Tens of thousands of peasants were conscripted. Men pulled from farms and villages, pressed into an endless labor, quarrying stone, hauling marble, raising walls until their hands split and their backs gave way. Many died beneath the stones they carried, and people whispered their souls were bound into the palace itself. The bells were blessed by priests, anointed, consecrated. But the workers, they muttered something else. That bronze remembers fire. That bronze remembers blood. When the curse bell tolled, it was never at the hour of prayer. It rang only for death. In the 19th century, stories spread through Mafra. A widow claimed she heard it ring at midnight. Just one note. By dawn, her son was found lifeless in his bed. Another tale spoke of a storm. A shepherd returning home through the hills heard the bell rolling across the night sky. When the storm cleared, his flock was gone, drowned in the flood. It tolls for life, the villagers said. Not just for men, but for all living things. Have you ever heard of a sound so heavy it feels as though the air itself is bending? Have you ever felt a note roll through your bones and wondered if it was meant for you? This is how they described the cursed bell. And it did not only toll for villagers. Some say it marked the fall of kings. On October 5th, 1910, the monarchy collapsed. Revolution spread through Lisboa. By morning, Portugal was a republic. In Mafra, old men swore they heard it. 3 notes, heavy and slow, as if the bell were tolling for the royal family itself. Not everyone believed. The palace became a museum, a relic of past grandeur. But the legend clung like ivy to the stone. Guards on the night shift told of footsteps echoing in empty halls, of shadows moving across the cloisters, and always, always, of a sound that made their blood run cold. One note, a toll that rolled down from the tower. Through the bells hung still in the moonlight. They say some guards refused to stay past midnight. Others swore oaths of silence, unwilling to ever speak of what they heard. The priest said it was nonsense. The historian said it was folklore. But in Mafra's taverns after dark, no one laughed, because too many had heard it, and too many had died soon after. What if a bell is not just bronze and rope? What if it is a voice for the dead and for those about to die? Anchors you in Portugal, weaves in local superstition that souls of laborers are trapped in the bells. Use historical. If you travel to Mafra, you will find the palace standing as if it had. If you travel to Mafra today, you will find the palace standing as it has for 3 centuries. The stones are pale, weathered, but unbroken. The basilica towers rise into the sky, twin domes like sentinels watching the town. It is no longer a king's seat. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Tourists walk the endless corridors. They marvel at the marble floors, the gilded chapels, the library filled with centuries of knowledge. Ah, the library. A vast hall of books stretching wall to wall, guarded not by men, but by colonies of bats. The bats feed on insects at night, protecting the manuscripts. Even its silence, Mafra remembers that preservation comes with shadows. And high above it all, in the bell towers, the carillons remain. 98 bells. Some weigh as much as 12 tons. When played together, they shake the air like a storm. But among them is the one the villagers will not name. The cursed bell. The bell that tolls for death. Guides at the palace often dismiss the legend. They laugh when asked about it. But the cafes of Mafra, over wine and bread, you will hear a different story. Never be near the palace at midnight, the elders say. If you hear the bell, someone is marked. Visitors have sworn they heard it. A single note rolling across the empty stone courtyard. No wind, no ropes, just a sound, deep and cold, like thunder torn from the earth. Always, always, someone falls ill, or a death is reported in the village the next morning. What is a bell, really? A hollow of bronze, a voice given to metal. But what if bronze remembers? What if the heat of its casting, the sweat, the blood, the broken bodies of the workers was never truly lost? What if every strike of the cursed bell releases not just sound, but memory? At night, if you stand in the square and look up, the towers loom black against the sky. The wind whistles through the cloisters. The marble seems to breathe. And if the cursed bells toll, the sound rolls through you. It shakes your ribs. It rattles your teeth. It feels like something you hear, and more like something claiming you. Today, Mafra is a monument, a jewel of Portugal's Baroque age. But to those who live beneath its shadow, it is something more, a reminder that promises made in desperation can leave echoes, that suffering poured into stone and bronze does not vanish, that some voices cannot be silenced. So the cursed bells remain, waiting, watching, tolling when no rope pulls it. When you dare stand beneath it at midnight, would you believe it was just the wind, or would you wonder if the bell was trolling for you?